How does a city rise not across a plain, but up the side of a mountain, layer by layer, until architecture and landscape become almost inseparable? In western Anatolia, the land begins to rise from the broad coastal plains of the Aegean world into rolling hills and rugged ridges. Olive trees and dry grasses move with the wind, and valleys stretch outward toward distant mountains. The air is bright, and the horizon is broken by hills that seem to climb gradually toward the sky. At the center of this landscape stands the ancient city of Pergamon. Today, the ruins lie near the modern Turkish town of Bergama. From the valley floor, the hill appears dramatic and steep, crowned by the remains of temples, terraces, and massive walls. Even in ruin, the city still dominates the surrounding countryside. But long ago, this hill supported one of the most striking urban landscapes of the ancient Mediterranean. Pergamon was not a city that spread outward. It climbed upward. The settlement was built along the slopes of a high rocky hill overlooking the fertile valley of the Caicus River. From this elevated position, the city commanded wide views across the plains and the distant Aegean coast. The hill offered natural defensive strength while also allowing the city to become visible from miles away. Over time, architects transformed the steep terrain into a carefully structured urban landscape. Terraces were cut directly into the hillside. Massive retaining walls supported layers of buildings stacked one above another. Roads and stairways connected the different levels of the city, creating a vertical network of streets climbing toward the summit. At the highest point stood the acropolis. Here, temples, administrative buildings, and monumental structures rose above the terraces below. From these heights, the entire city unfolded down the slope in ordered layers. Seen from a distance, Pergamon appeared almost like a mountain shaped into architecture. Yet this remarkable design raises a deeper question. Why did Pergamon develop into such a dramatic terraced megacity, and how did its hillside landscape shape the organization and power of the entire city? The hill of Pergamon rises sharply from the valley below, forming a natural ridge that dominates the surrounding landscape. From its summit, the land opens outward in wide views across the fertile plains of western Anatolia. Rivers wind through fields in the distance, and the horizon stretches toward the distant Aegean coast. This high ground offered both protection and visibility. But steep terrain alone cannot support a large city. To transform the hillside into an urban center, engineers reshaped the mountain itself. Terraces were carved into the slopes, creating level platforms where buildings could stand securely. Massive retaining walls supported these platforms, holding back tons of earth and stone while forming the foundation for the structures above. The city grew upward through these terraces. At the summit stood the acropolis, the highest and most fortified section of Pergamon. Here, large temples and administrative buildings occupied the uppermost plateau. Their elevated position made them visible across the valley, reinforcing the city's presence within the surrounding landscape. Below the acropolis, additional terraces extended down the hillside. Each level supported different parts of the city. Some contained public structures and gathering spaces. Others held residential districts where houses clustered along narrow streets and stairways that followed the natural slope of the hill. Movement through Pergamon was therefore vertical as well as horizontal. Staircases climbed between terraces. Sloping roads wound around the hillside. From the lower city, travelers could gradually ascend through multiple levels before reaching the monumental buildings at the summit. Water also had to be carefully managed. Channels and aqueduct systems carried water from distant sources toward the city, ensuring that even the upper terraces could sustain daily life. Without such systems, a settlement on such steep terrain would have struggled to survive. Seen from afar, the city appeared almost sculpted from the mountain, layer upon layer of architecture rising toward the sky. Yet this dramatic design raises another question. How did Pergamon sustain such a complex terraced landscape, and what role did this vertical city play within the wider world of the ancient Mediterranean? As Pergamon expanded across its steep hillside, the city developed into a carefully layered urban environment where architecture, terrain, and movement were tightly connected. Each terrace formed a distinct level within the city, yet all of them remained linked through stairways, roads, and open spaces that guided movement up and down the slope. Near the summit, the acropolis dominated the skyline. From this highest terrace, monumental buildings rose above the rest of the city. Large temple complexes occupied carefully leveled platforms, their columns once visible across the valley below. Nearby stood wide public courtyards and administrative spaces where the upper city gathered around its most important structures. Below these heights, the city continued to unfold in descending layers. Broad terraces supported public buildings, gathering spaces, and long colonnaded streets that followed the contours of the hillside. The design allowed each level of the city to remain connected while still maintaining clear views across the valley and toward the acropolis above. Residential districts spread across the middle slopes. Here, houses clustered along narrow streets that climbed gradually between terraces. Stone walls formed compact neighborhoods where daily life unfolded beneath the towering structures of the upper city. From many of these homes, the entire valley landscape would have been visible, creating a constant sense of connection between the city and the plains beyond. Water systems played an essential role in sustaining this vertical settlement. Aqueducts carried water from distant highlands, directing it toward reservoirs positioned at different levels of the city. These systems ensured that even the highest terraces received a reliable supply. Beyond the city itself, the surrounding valley remained closely tied to Pergamon's life. Roads connected the hillside settlement with farmland across the plains, where agriculture supported the population living within the terraced city. The result was a remarkable balance. A city built upward from a mountain, yet sustained by the wide landscape below. Still, even a city shaped so carefully by its terrain could not remain unchanged forever. Over time, the relationship between Pergamon's terraces and the surrounding world would begin to shift. Over the centuries, the terraced city of Pergamon slowly entered a new phase of change. The massive retaining walls still held the slopes in place, and the terraces continued to step downward from the summit toward the valley floor. Temples, public buildings, and residential districts remained layered across the hillside, preserving the remarkable structure of a city built vertically rather than across open land. But landscapes never remained completely stable. Weather gradually wore against the stone. Earth shifted along the slopes. Maintaining such an extensive network of terraces, stairways, and water channels required constant effort. As time passed, some districts expanded while others slowly declined. Yet Pergamon did not vanish suddenly. Instead, the city transformed. Over generations, different layers of construction appeared across the hill. Structures were repaired, reused, or replaced. Even as the wider world around the Aegean changed, the distinctive shape of the city, its terraces climbing toward the acropolis, remained visible across the landscape. Today, the ruins of Pergamon still dominate the hillside above the modern valley. Stone foundations trace the outlines of terraces that once supported entire districts. The acropolis still crowns the summit, where the highest structures once overlooked the plains of western Anatolia. Paths and stairways remain carved into the slope, revealing how movement once flowed through the vertical city. From the valley floor, the city still appears dramatic, layer upon layer of architecture rising toward the sky. And so the original question returns. Why did Pergamon develop into such a remarkable terraced megacity? Part of the answer lies in geography. The hill offered defensive strength and commanding views across the valley. Another part lies in planning. Engineers and architects reshaped the mountain itself, transforming steep terrain into a structured urban landscape. Pergamon was not simply built on a hill. The hill itself became the city. Even today, the terraced slopes remain visible across the landscape of western Anatolia, a reminder that some of the ancient world's greatest cities were shaped not only by walls and buildings, but by the land beneath them. If this journey through the hillside city of Pergamon stayed with you, you may enjoy exploring more ancient landscapes like this. And what do you think shaped Pergamon more? The mountain it stood upon, or the terraces that transformed it into a city?